Everyone, how are you? It's raining here, Monday night, but this is really this is about my weekend, and I want to ask you that question. All right, I'll ask you two questions. Have you seen that film School of Rock? You know, with Jack Black. Where he's like he's like a supply teacher, and he ends up teaching these kids about rock and roll music, and he uses that phrase, sticking it to the man, and tells them what the man is, and goes into all that. And I think they've done a musical of it now as well, which I think has got some good reviews. But anyway, I'm digressing. So what the second question I want to ask is that sticking it to the man, rock and roll, rebellion, all the rest of it. Compared with like modern day internet guitarists, all the gent stuff, oh, look at this sweet picking lick I've got, look at this this gent thing, look at this, oh look, I've got this new pedal to show you, oh look, I've got a new guitar. Is that sticking it to the man? Okay, well, I can already see you typing on the computer, so just before you do that, there's a little bit more I want to say. So, I mean, this is really about Saturday. Now, most Saturdays, as you're probably aware, I take myself up to Birmingham and just have a good route around the shops, go in the big guitar stores they've got up there. Unfortunately, this weekend there was a train strike on, so I ended up getting stranded. I was in Guitar, which is like, it's on the Hagley Road, and it's past Five Ways, and of course I'm on foot. And of course then I've got some other things to do between getting from there to getting to New Street Station. So I ended up being about 10 minutes late for the last train home. Last train went back to Leicester from Birmingham at 22 minutes past 6. So suddenly I'm stranded in Birmingham. And it's a bit like it is now, where it's like it's sort of raining heavily, and then it's calm, and then it's raining again, and then it's calm again. So I'm trying. I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do? Maybe I could go to like National Express, or get a coach, or maybe get a taxi, or maybe find a park bench somewhere. I mean, I'm not really dressed up for clubbing, and I'm a bit old for going out clubbing as well, so, and plus I'd be a bit tired too, so that would have been out of the question. So the only real option available would have been getting a hotel. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to have to stop this video. Right, okay. So anyway, so I had to get a hotel. And now, before we actually started to get back to that stick it to the man idea, I tried, it must have been about 3 or 4, and one of them, I mean, it was just like the most pathetic thing you've ever heard. You walk through the door, nobody on the desk at all. You can see there's a CCTV camera keeping an eye on it, and there's like some automatic trigger that says, right, there's a customer there. And then this girl turns up at the desk. Oh, all our rooms are booked online. You'll have to do it that like. So, right, okay. So I'm sort of, just bear with me a second. So I sort of like, right, well, oops. Oh, I've got my phone here. Can you talk me through it? And he looks at me. Okay, never mind. I'll find somewhere else. Try somewhere else on the desk. Oh, sorry, we've just let the last room out. It's Saturday night. It's really busy tonight. Then there's another hotel. Yeah, you can have a room, but it's like £130. Oh, and that doesn't include the breakfast, so I'll have to charge extra for that. Oh, okay. And then eventually I found this other one, and they had rooms available, and it was like a nice Tudor building, and and then a bit of a warren inside. But the staff are really friendly, really helpful. And then suddenly I'm just taken out of it, I don't know if you ever had that experience where you feel you you kind of been in the rat race a little bit, you know, where it's like go to work. Well, before you go to work, get ready to go to work. Go to work, do your job. Trials and perils of your working day. Right, finish work, got to go shopping. Got some things to do there. Come home, you're tired. What do? Do you put YouTube on or something, or you put some music on? Right, have something to eat. Right, it's getting late. Oh, I haven't done any music practice yet. Right, better get on with that. Right, okay. Oh, it's nearly bedtime. Right, oh well, time to go to bed. Right, and so on and so on. And so you find yourself just on this treadmill, and you're thinking, well, how long can this continue? And then things like going up to Birmingham at the weekend, you know, looking at guitars and things, that becomes your route, that becomes your way out. But is it? Because, you know, it's sort of, it's almost like self-fulfilling, you know, that you're just trapped on this treadmill, this rat race thing. So suddenly I'm out of all that. I'm in this room, nice comfy double bed, which is great, and the ensuite bathroom. Figured out how to turn the telly on. So you got suddenly you got these well, I wouldn't say cable TV, but like digital TV. So we suddenly got these other channels that we can watch as well. So I start browsing. I mean, I haven't actually watched terrestrial or digital TV for a few months now, and so I'm sat there. So then I found, you know, it was getting on a bit. So then there was this thing on BBC Two all about the Hubble telescope, and you know, like some of those fantastic images that came back. You know, like I think is it the Eagle Nebula? You know, when you've seen those big clouds, you know, of sort of hydrogen gas and dust and stuff like this, and you know, at the top you see these little specks, you know, these little clumps of this stuff breaking off, and then they go on to form solar systems, and then they look like little specks, but each of those is like a solar system with all its planets in and everything. And then of course they're talking about, you know, like viewing, you know, like for the first time capturing supernovas on camera, or detecting black holes, or you know, etc, etc. And then finally come back to, you know, like the Earth, and then of course, you know, they didn't actually mention that Carl Sagan thing about the pale blue dot, you know, like a pale blue dot caught in a sunbeam. They didn't actually talk about that. But I was starting to think about that as well, you know, like all like the world's problems, when you actually look from that cosmic perspective, they're insignificant, you know. They really do pale into insignificance. Okay, so that's that thing. Then I turned over and there was some talent show was on one of the other channels, and it's a bit like Stars in Their Eyes but updated, you know, where, you know, you're a singer but you sing in the style of, you know, tonight I'm going to be so and so. So they were doing Frank Sinatra. There were some women who were doing Kate Bush as well. Now, like, some of my friends are really big Kate Bush fans. So it was quite interesting watching that, and then Bruno Mars as well, you know, doing that Uptown Funk. So that was interesting. You know, I was thinking that, well, maybe, you know, it's possible to earn a living as a musician just doing tributes, just doing cover music. There's a real market for that, but it's just a case of finding that niche. And even though, like, there was only one person out of that lot. Even though there was only one person who actually went through to the next round, by virtue of being on that show, they're going to get noticed, and you know that they're going to get offers of work, and things could change, you know, very rapidly for them. So that was that, and then yeah, I ended up watching this thing on the Sky Arts, and it was this documentary about the Rolling Stones. I have to look it up. I can never remember how it's pronounced. I keep wanting. Yeah, the Rolling Stones, The Road to Altamont, and it was this documentary about, you know, the Altamont concert that they played in 1969. But it was also I mean, I love watching documentaries about the 60s, because it's that whole decade where, you know, like, everything was decided by the youth, and that whole stick it to the man philosophy seemed to have like been born, because there was this whole counterculture there. But this documentary, that seems to be where it died. I mean, they were going into like how like this counterculture movement had started. It developed from the beatniks, etc. There were all little different pockets, from around the world, and it converged on either London or San Francisco, and then gradually they started to merge. And there was things like Woodstock and the Monterey Pop Festival. And then somebody had this idea: wouldn't it be great to do another free concert where we could have, the Grateful Dead, and I think what was it? Was it Jefferson Airplane on Mamas and Papas? I can't remember which one it was. And the Rolling Stones, well, they'd be like a surprise special guest. Right, okay. So they were looking around for this venue, and then finally settled on this Speedway Park, and it absolutely looked like a real dump. It didn't look, like compared to say like Glastonbury or Download. It just looked like a real shambles from the get-go. Anyway, so they decided to go ahead, and then somebody else had this idea. I know. Why don't we get the Hells Angels to be the security? Because they were thinking, well, it's all counterculture, isn't it? I mean, like the Hells Angels, it's all that Jack Kerouac stuff, isn't it? So, about being free, and but as this thing wore on, I mean, it was just an absolute farce, because like the Hells Angels, they were being I think to say overzealous is an understatement, because I mean this crowd have been building a building. There's no toilets. There's no food places. You can't buy a hot dog or a hamburger at somewhere like that. You've got to bring your own food, and of course there's this massive crowd forming. So they're getting a bit restless, and they've been taking sort of acid and like smoking funny cigarettes and stuff. But some really dodgy acid had got out, and so people are having like bad trips and things, and they're getting a bit restless. So anyway, like the bands are coming on, but like the Hells Angels, they're sort of laying into these hippies, like with pool cues, and they're being really nasty, and there was, I mean, they're talking about this one bit where there's this guy, he's stark naked, he's out of his face on acid, and he's got like this big jug of wine, and he makes his way towards the stage, and then these like Hells Angel lot, we're having none of that, and then like they started beating him up. And then there's the organiser of this concert, and he's like got this hippie philosophy. Hey, we're all brothers, man, and all that. So then he got a beating, and then a bit later you hear that like somebody got like stabbed by the Hells Angels. I mean, all right. I mean, in that case, it was a bit stupid because he pulled a gun. So anyway, like the Rolling Stones are on, and then of course like all this violence is kicking off. I mean, like they were actually using some footage from that "Give Me Shelter" film as well. I don't know if you've seen that. And then partway through the set, I mean, they're thinking about like just going off, just I've had enough of this. But then partway through the set, they parade this poor lad's, this lad who's been killed. They parade his body up, and put it on the stage, So, I mean, how are you supposed to? How as a musician, how are you supposed to function? If something like that's happened to you, I mean, I'm talking about like, say you're doing a gig. I mean, like, I always think it's a bit odd, if people are like slam dancing and whatever when you're playing. At what point do you actually stop? Is it when people get nosebleeds, or is it when people get sort of? How seriously hurt do people have to be before you'll stop your music? I mean, there's also other things about that the Rolling Stones at the time, they had this big team behind them about that they created this whole image of them being the bad boys, and they were playing this sort of American R&B music, which was kind of like, oh no, you don't do that, because it was just to be counter to the Beatles, you see, and they were telling, they were saying, right, well, this is, we'll say what's going to be on the albums when the albums come out, and what sort of gigs you're going to play and when you're going to play them. So it's kind of orchestrated that they got this bad boy image, but they played this gig where there was all this violence going on. And so it's like the documentary was kind of like, it's coming to a conclusion where this thing was so bad. I mean, like the Grateful Dead, they were supposed to be they were supposed to be the headliners, but they just thought, oh no, we're not doing this, and they refused to go on. So the gig basically, it stopped with the Rolling Stones, but yeah, so but the conclusion of this documentary was saying that it was kind of, it sort of bookmarked the whole of that 60s free movement, that whole hippie movement. It just effectively just ground to a halt after that concert. So the whole sticking it to the man, the anti-Vietnam stuff, the flower power, the whole sort of using acid as a mind-altering whatever. It just fell apart, and so you can kind of almost see the man, chuckling about this, because like, rather than being afraid, all he's going to do is just watch it just gradually burn to the ground, So then getting back to these other things that had happened to me today. I mean, like, there's been, like a rail strike on. The teachers are on strike. There's a nursing strike. I think the junior doctors, they're striking as well. And there's a few other things as well. It's not quite at the point of a general strike yet, but it could be going that way, without getting overly political. And then, of course, there's this war in Ukraine. And there's all sorts of things going on, which it just makes you think, oh dear, why bother? I mean, I'm starting to echo Jack Black, with that whole thing about just give up because the man's already beaten you. It kind of feels a bit like that. So, I mean, it's almost like, I think maybe it's an appeal to, like, fellow musicians out there. That rather than like, hey, look at this cool lick I've got, hey, look at this pedal I've got, hey, I've got a new guitar, isn't it cool? Shouldn't we be sort of rallying our efforts a bit more, and actually, thinking about, say like the pale blue dot idea, that we are just a mote of dust caught in a sunbeam. That maybe we should be working on our customer service skills, like when you're on the front desk, somewhere, you have to book it online. Maybe we could be a bit more helpful, maybe the job is pressured, but, you ask for more training or whatever, or take some time off, or look for a different job. And of course, I think sometimes it's important just to take some time out and reflect. So I'm going to leave you with that question. The whole stick it to the man. Is that still valid, or are we just actually rolled over? All right, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time. Might do a pedal review or show you a new guitar in the next one. All right, see you.